First, I'd like to say that my name is Theo Parrish, and I'm going to hand it over to Jared and let him do the rest of the questioning.
Yeah, this is Mr. Theo Parrish, who lives in Detroit. This man is a DJ and producer extraordinaire, runs a little label called, or a big label called Sound Signature Records, and yeah, is a man of high-tech jazz and the savior of house music. So give him a warm welcome again, please.
Thank you. Okay, what I didn't understand at this point was that I didn't know if Stevie Wonder, now I'm like before 5 years old, I didn't know if Stevie was just singing a song, if he was playing on it, if all those backgrounds was him, if he was doing the drums. All I knew was that all of that sonic experience was coming from this one guy. And I was able to associate it with this. I would look at this and say, that's Stevie Wonder, that's him right there. I can see that, I can feel that, I can go in the store. And I knew that wherever I went in the world, that if I saw this, that I knew that that was a likeness of the individual that I associated with that music. And it wasn't until later that I got a lot older, not a lot older, maybe 15, 16. And I went to a party at a hotel pavilion. I was living in Chicago. Lil Louis was playing. I don't know if many of you know who Lil Louis is. Lil Louis is an underground Chicago DJ who one of the, some say the father of house music, or one of the godfathers, one of the creators of house music. And I walked in, and I didn't expect to hear this on a sound system with 1,000 to 2,000 other black kids, and he's playing this in the beginning. We're talking 9 p.m., Hotel Pavilion downtown, 1988. And that experience from my youth just touched me directly, like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is, I come to hear boom tis, boom tis, boom tis, because the mix shows with Farley and all these other guys, they would showcase a lot of the newer music, but I wasn't really understanding what a party was about. And a party, in a lot of senses, at that point, in Chicago anyway, was was bridging the gap from where you knew safety was, home, to a communal experience. And this song did it, and I never understood the emotion of this song until the bridge came and the vocals came up, and that's why I paused it there. So let me do a little something here, bring it up. That song just kind of hit the roof. Now, if you amplify that song, maybe times 10, maybe you took an 8-foot by 8-foot bass bottom, and then multiplied that times 4, then doubled it, then put mids on top, then put highs on top. Then you had somewhat of an idea of how huge the sound was in the place. Lil Louis would have sound engineers come in and totally overwhelm you. So the songs took on a life and a size of their own. You had one side of the pavilion was all sound, and this was a DJ playing. This wasn't a rap concert. This wasn't a rock concert. This was not Pink Floyd, but you had sound like it was. So these songs became these huge musical events, and you're 15, you walk in, and your DNA gets changed instantly. You're just walking in the spot. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is Mom's song. Mom used to play this on Sundays, cleaning up the house, and now I'm getting hit in the head, so your imagination takes you places. So then it started to make sense, some of the other songs he played in his set, because this was probably maybe 9 o'clock in the evening, and he's playing this song. And when the vocals came out and it dropped, up until that point, I thought I was hearing the whole range of sound that was available with the speakers. He had only the mids in, and then he dropped the lows when the second part came, when the ooh, ooh, ooh comes in. Let me shut up and play. And it become an intimate thing. Now, the other part of the album, that was always the favorite song, was As. And I always thought, oh, I wonder why it's called As, when he's always saying always. But then I thought, the first letter of always is A, and the last letter of always is As. So it's S, so it's got to be As. This must be what it is. You know, but I just was digging on how the hidden meanings of the song and all the different applications you can put on what the lyrics meant and all the different emotional states the song goes through. And I really didn't understand what was happening at the time, and I dug it. All right, and I'm gonna leave. What else you want to talk about?
And this is still your first copy of the album?
No, it's not my first copy. That's probably my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably my 5th copy of that album that I've come across.
And you were talking about Little Louis and the Bismarck, and you also mentioned Farley. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what it was, or in Chicago back in the day, that was going on.
Well, a lot of what was happening.
Guys.
Okay, yeah, a lot of what was happening was, well, at least for me, you know, me being the age I was, first time I heard somebody mix on the radio, I was probably about 12 years old, and it was after complaining to my mother that I wanted a radio, and it was Christmas. She got me a radio. It's one of those one set deals with the radio in it, the tape deck, and the plastic turntable all in one hookup. And I was like, yeah, this is sweet. So I'm fooling around with the dials, and towards the end of the dial, and I hear this call thing come on. It's BMX. I was like, what is BMX? And I was into BMX bikes too at the time. I was just thinking, BMX, that's strange. All right, that's a good association. I like bikes, you know. But that was a call letters for the radio station, WBMX, and they were playing all these different types of songs I had never heard or couldn't even conceive of at the time. It was, because all I knew up in that point was what my mother was playing for me, and a little bit what my friends were playing around, and they were off into like, you know, the breakdance deal. Everybody was into Soul Sonic Force, and that was cool. I was into that a little bit too, but this was different. You know, this was being played on the radio, and it was call letters, people calling in. Everybody was really excited. And you went to school the next day, and people had recorded it, and were recording it. And I was like, I gotta learn how to record it. I didn't know how to record it. So everybody had these mixtapes and were trading them around, and it just became this huge movement. Like, I don't think people really understood how widespread the idea of house music on the radio in Chicago was at that time. Now, me, I'm considered a young guy coming into it, because there were these other generations, guys that are 10 years older than me, that were into it and well off into it. But for me, it was this whole new world that opened up, you know? And so I hadn't even gotten to the idea that there was a place that I could go hear it. And this was before I actually went out and heard this out. And you would go to these little high school parties, a couple of your contemporaries, and you know, you didn't know who was gonna show up. You heard about these Mendel parties, you know, and the Mendel parties had everybody from Farley to, Mike Williams. I mean, you had tons of DJs known and unknown that were playing all around the city, and it was a sweep. I mean, the whole south side of Chicago. Now, before I go into that part, the thing to mention is that Chicago always was, from my understanding, a very, very segregated town. You had the south side and you had the north side. And at that point, we're talking the mid-'80s, there was still a lot of instituted, you know, racist ideas about how the city was gonna be run and where certain people needed to be at. And those certain people that I belonged to were African American, and we needed to be out on the south side. We weren't welcome up north. So a lot of the parties and the whole idea, conception of this music, is coming from the south side of Chicago. Talking about black people in struggle, it's coming from people who really, really, really were shut out of everything that was strange that this music is turning into today. And it's a really, really interesting dynamic. I think it's ironic. But we owned that music. That was our language at that time. That was something that we held on to. We would play in our cars, and we would go do these parties, and it was something we could all be a part of. And you knew that at that point in time, no one else in the city was interested in that part of the radio dial. Just you and your friends. But you never knew how many. And then later on, you start to find out that, you know, some of these songs you were listening to, sold over hundreds of thousands of copies within the first week of their release. Talking Mr. Fingers EP that came out. In fact, I'll go right to that, as a matter of fact. We can get right in. This is the original copy I got, too. It's beat up.
Yeah, it looks like the original.
Yes, yeah, look at that. Some good, some good marks on that. But when this came out, this changed everything. This changed everything. The whole idea of what this music was, where it needed to go, where it had been, changed it all. And then this was all before we started to understand what a deal was. We had no workings, no kind of knowledge of the inner workings of the music industry, how records were made, pressed, money for spinning was not even heard of. In fact, you played records just to get recognition. And there was a guy on every single block that could play just as well as you. There was no, I'm gonna go open up for Lil Louis. You'd be lucky to even get a good look at the guy. I mean, no, you know, it wasn't going down. It was for props. If you got lucky, you played some basement parties around the corner. If you got good, but you had competition. We're talking about all right, let me put it to you this way. Chicago is broken up into the north side, south side, and you have a street that divides it, and basically it goes almost up to 8700 north and 130-something south. Now, from basically 2200 south all the way out to 179th was all black folks. Just basically black folks. And in every city block, there was a guy just like you trying to learn how to put records together. So the competition level was high. Like I liken it to how I imagine hip hop hit New York, was how house music hit Chicago. And it was that much more competitive. Let me stop there and put this record on. But before it really came down to knowing that this stuff was available, we were hearing it on the radio. And I remember hearing this on the radio. It blew my mind. Now, the first one that was heard was Can You Feel It? I didn't know the name of it. It just came into the middle of Farley's mix CD. I mean, mix CD. Live mix on the radio. Wasn't even CDs available at the time. I was under the impression that this guy, Mr. Fingers, did all that. I wasn't even looking at who was doing what on the record labels. I was just buying them. I got home and I was with my friends, Leron and Spencer, and we sat down, we listened to them, we just sat there and listened. And what I didn't understand was that there were more than one song on each one of these records. And I grabbed one and I looked and I saw these other songs on there, so I just started bouncing through it. And I forgot all about Can You Feel It because it was mellow. And remember, I'm still like 15 years old, 16, so I'm hyper. Just gotta have some aggression. So this served it. In the middle of the track, we're innovative as fuck. I'm sorry, can I say fuck? Is that all right?
You can.
I can say fuck in here? All right. They were really innovative. And to be able to stop a track in the middle of it going like that, leave one little note, boom, like that, I had people going crazy whenever you heard that out or you played it. And what went along with this was finally a chance to go out. I went out and heard these things. Lil Louis playing them, heard Ron Hardy playing them, heard all these different guys playing them. And it was just shocking to walk into a spot and see the whole crowd react and call and response to the person playing it back and forth. And I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Now when I hit the floor, it was because I wanted to dance, because that's what this music was about. It was about movement. And it was no, how do I explain this? All right, if you take away the magazines from dance music, if you can imagine what's left, if you go back in time, if you take that away, you take away all of the sponsorship, you take away all of the things that make it a commodity, and you break it down to its essential form, you have nothing but pure experience among individuals. And if you can imagine that, and then turn it into a language that's spoken among the youth and shared among the youth, something that you own, that no one else owns, no one else is claiming this, no one else can put a stamp or a tag on it. If you can dig how much of a fanatic that will make a young person as they become an adult, then you can understand now why you have so many individuals. Like on the south side of Chicago now, if you go into an older bar, like guys that are 35, 40 plus, they're not playing, you know, the Supremes, the Four Tops. They're playing this stuff. They're playing older classics. And that's another thing we'll get into is the classic stuff. Basically, the pieces that these were made off of, the calls and responses. But this sort of music was there and was a language before the monikers came, like acid house, like progressive, like drum and bass, like any of the different subgenres that are utilized to dissect the music and pimp it, more or less. Way before any of that was done, so it was considered all the same thing. We weren't really even calling it house music. It didn't have the moniker that it had. That was Europe coming over, seeing it, saw that there was money to be made, taking it back, and that's what next thing you know, you had D-Mob walking around with acid, with the smiley face. There wasn't no smiley face. And LSD was not a part of the equation, at least not with the young kids, not with us. It was never associated. It was something that was a lot more raw and a lot more visceral. It was part of our language. It was something we were owning. Kind of like how you can imagine, all right, there's these cats in the South with the screwed music. They slow stuff down. That sort of deal. It's something that you wouldn't understand as an outsider. And so the commodification came. This was something that I noticed in retrospect. I wasn't understanding it at the time because I was too busy trying to put two records together. So as I was putting them together, the biggest aspiration I ever had was I want to get my name on one of those posters. Rick knows what I'm talking about with those posters. There was a methodology back in the back. That's a teacher right there, Rick Wilhite from Detroit. He was worked at a store. You can give him a hand. Give him a hand. Worked at a store in Detroit. That's where I met him. It's a place called Buy Right Music. Buy Right Music was important in ushering in a lot of the house sound coming out of Chicago and other places, and he was one of the main buyers up there to make sure that happened. But when that was happening in Chicago, all I wanted to do was put together the records, blah, blah, blah. I had no idea that this thing was taking off in other places. I had no idea there was any interest beyond what was happening in my own little backyard. Blah, 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 blah. All right. Lead me, man, lead me.
You mentioned Ron Hardy.
Yeah.
And he was the DJ at a club called Music Box.
Yeah, and a lot of other places.
And he was maybe together with Frankie Knuckles?
No, he wasn't together with Frankie Knuckles. Oh, no. See,
okay, then he was separated from Frankie Knuckles. But who was he and what does he mean to you?
Who was he and what he means? Basically, Ron Hardy was, I say, the foremost important selector of the 20th century, easily. The most important selector of the 20th century, because not only did he have the skills and the energy, the emotional energy and the connection to every song, but he had the balls to do whatever he wanted to do. And some people call it just insanity or craziness or something, but it takes guts to have a floor rocking at, peak hour, and then just all of a sudden just drop whatever the hell he wants to do, no matter what. Just gonna do what he's gonna do. That takes guts. And so to be able to do those things and also to usher in new sounds every time he played in a fashion that just hadn't been seen before was a pivotal thing. Like, he broke a lot of these tracks that we take for granted. He was the first to play them. in that he wasn't very radio accessible. He wasn't putting out any records. Maybe did a couple of mixes on a couple of things, and that was about it. To me, in terms of EQ work, what people talk about working the EQ, dropping things, bringing in the highs, bringing in the lows, la la la. The methodology he would employ was something that I haven't seen since. You try to find people that can listen to a beat and listen to the off times, the on times, the rhythms underneath the rhythms, and work the EQ in connection with it. But it's another thing to see somebody do it with that kind of skill, but then do it emotively. So that you had people that, I mean, literally, there were these posts in the box, and cats would be climbing the walls, literally straddling the post. We're talking 2 stories up, because the box had a ceiling, and then that ceiling was taken out and went up another story. So we're talking about, it was 2 stories from the top of the ceiling to the floor, and these posts that ran up it. You had these faithful believers that would go up in there and lose their mind and climb the posts, snapping, just snapping, because he lit people up like that. And there was no light show. There was no clouds of smoke, none of that. You had a strobe light in the corner, and you had a siren near the DJ booth. That was it. It wasn't about being seen. It wasn't about any of that. It was about that sound. It was about the music he was playing. And that sort of raw dedication is what I see is kind of lacking these days.
But you're pretty good with the EQs yourself, right?
I'm no Ron Hardy. No, I'm not Ron Hardy. You know, I'm me. You know, all I can do is take what little I learned, or what I think I've learned from him and other DJs like him. Because I mean, I feel like I owe more to so many other DJs there than just Ron Hardy. It's a culmination. A lot of DJs, they never had any kind of recognition. We're talking about the Mike Williams and the Dion Williams and the Gene Hunts and, you know, the Terry Hunters, and, you know, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Craig Loftus. These are all guys that would play alongside these giants that we know of, but a lot of times we're either marginalized because of the attitude or whatever, circumstantial, but we're really, really solid jocks, and a lot of them still play out today, but we don't give them the time of day because we think of, oh, he doesn't have a name. Oh, he doesn't put records out. Oh, he must not be that much worth that much. It's not the case, you know.
How old were you back then, as you were going to the music box?
Music box, I was 15 years old.
So you had to sneak in?
Well, I didn't have to sneak. You just went up to the door, and if they thought you wouldn't be able to handle going up in there, then they wouldn't let you in. But sometimes they wouldn't look at your ID. Slide in there. Slide in there. 15, 16.
And when did you start to play records then? At clubs?
At clubs?
Basements? Or
oh, man.
Wherever?
It wasn't until I was 22. So from 13 to 22, I had no professional work. I was strictly DJ, strictly bedroom. I had 3 basement parties. One of them I threw when I was 15. That was it. Like, there was no promise of there being any kind of chance to do this as a career. That was the first thing from my mind. It wasn't until I went to school in Kansas City that I had a chance to actually spend for a substantial amount of money. But the first amount of money I made as a DJ, I started spending when I was 13. I did my first gig when I was 15, and I made $23. And I was happy. I was so happy. Because at the end of that gig, everybody in the block was like, yeah, it was great. I was known as the guy around the corner who could play the music. That was it. That's as far as it went. My biggest aspiration, like I said at that point, was to get my name on one of these posters like the big guys. I didn't know what any of that meant. I just know that I wanted my mother to appreciate it, to know that at least all this banging in her attic upstairs was coming to something. So that's where that went.
And what does your mother think today about?
She's all in my ear now. She's, you know, telling me what, you know, what people think about stuff on the line, because I don't follow online. I don't really watch what the current status is on what I'm doing. I don't really worry too much about it. I can't. If you're concerned about what you're doing in the next song in your head or the next thing you want to play, sometimes all of the information of how you're being received is a huge distraction. It becomes a hindrance because then you start to become boxed in by your own movement. Start going, well, I did this and people like that, so maybe I should keep doing that. You know, it's an issue. But she monitors all that for me.
So you don't give 2 cents about all that hype
not really,
surrounding
no.
your person?
It doesn't matter. It's appreciated because at the end of the day, that allows me to be able to do what I do and not have to work another job. However, it's really not essential. I mean, when you really get down to the idea of what you're here to do, like what's your point? You know, why were you given this life energy to keep on breathing? You know, if your point is to make a song or to play a song, then that is all it needs to be. All the ideas of grandeur and the money and the fame and the blah, 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 that's all misplaced. If you can't do the most simple thing, and that's connect individuals to the songs. Like try to diminish as much of your ego from the process as possible. And people tend to forget that. They forget that. They think that, oh, it's all about me. I've brought the records. No, it's not. What about the people whose lives are trapped in these pieces of vinyl? What about that? There's people in there. And they need to talk to the individuals that came and paid to get in. Because, I mean, when you go to any party, over time, it's a heavy thing, but if you look at it, that's somebody's last night on earth. Think about that. Just by law of numbers, if you play a party, there's 1,000 people there, somebody there might not make it the next day. Are you gonna be standing in their way, too busy talking to somebody out to the side working the EQ while they're listening to the last song they're gonna hear? You know, that's the kind of thing we have to battle against because we're all challenged with that. You know, but if you have it in your head to try to minimize yourself from the connection between the people that come in and the music that's being played, then you're in good shape.
So you always try to give your best?
I try to do, well, I'm a human.
Yeah.
I make mistakes all day. And that's the biggest thing. You can't be afraid to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But you can't be afraid to make mistakes. Try to do the best I can under all circumstances. You just try.
Some people might also say that there are a few mistakes on your records, right?
Oh, there's mistakes all over the place. I mean, it's all a work in process, you know, in progress, all of it. I mean, I got stuff that's mastered wrong because I tried this guy, he didn't cut it right, there was no time, it was coming out. You make mistakes, you know.
But the funny thing is that people think most of the time that it's all done on purpose, right?
Right. It's like a lot of people think it's all a conscious decision. Well, it's a conscious decision, but not by me. Some other consciousness pulling my strings, say, do this. And I know, okay, this feels right. You know, and that's the sort of thing that kind of gets lost, too, is people get the idea a lot of times when it comes to what they're listening to, that it has to be crisp and clean and sterile and all this stuff. And yeah, in some senses, some things do need to be crisp and clean and sterile. But if you convey a feeling, and that feeling is getting across to the individuals that come, they can be very forgiving of what they're doing, with what's going on sonically, if something emotive is happening at the same time in balance. So you can get away with maybe a clip or two, or things a little bit more blurry than you would like, and get them on the emotive side. It's a give and take.
So you take emotions over sound any day?
Not necessarily. It's such a particular thing. On certain songs, yes. In certain parties, yes. Because I mean, the first thing you have to realize is every single moment that you're experiencing is something that is particular to its own time, space, everything. So if I go into a party and I'm feeling that day and those people are feeling that day and I play and the record skips and nobody cares, it keeps on going, no problem. Other days, I may be too hyper about it. I may be feeling it. The record skips. The crowd clears the floor. I get embarrassed. I try to play something to appease the crowd. They get disheveled. They go, well, what are you doing? I thought you were so-and-so. So it can all fall apart. You know, it's willing to walk that razor blade is that's the part I'm concerned about. And when I want to get better at is walking the razor blade and saying, okay, this is what I want to continue to do. This is important. But more than that, it's important to other people more than it is to me. You know, like the relationship between the individuals that come and the people that, you know, make that. That's the most important part.
So what are the places you like the most playing at?
Oh, I like Yellow in Japan. Yeah, I like Yellow in Japan. I also like Plastic People London.
Because of the sound system?
Yeah, sound system. It's generally, that's where it goes. Sound system. There's also a couple of places that I love just because of the energy of the people. And also, too, it's not enough to say what places, you know, because on any given night, you never know who's going to show up. It's always a different animal. There have been places I played where the sound has been just horrible. Speakers on a stick, people not bringing in cabinets, no sound monitor, but I've had a great night there, and the people there really made me feel at home. So it doesn't matter if they get that together or not. Sometimes the emotive part of it is the best part, and that's where you can really connect. But other times the sound will be great, but the crowd is just like, well, stand around. Yeah, have you heard the new Masters at Work? Yeah. You know, they don't give a damn if you beating it, it doesn't matter. You know, so it goes back and forth. So there's no real such thing as, you know, a favorite place to play. It's more like there have been these high points and memories where it's been good, and as I get older, they just tend to wash away. Yeah.
And speaking of sound systems, what would be in your mind, your ideal setup?
Okay. The best sound system I ever went to and experienced was this place in New York called Love. They have a Richard Long system in there. I didn't know anything about a Richard Long system until I went in there and saw really what it was.
Richard Long was the guy who set up the sound system in Paradise Garage, right?
Exactly. Now, this system was based after his design. Now, I admittedly know little to nothing about that whole deal. So I'm not going to sit up and start lying and say, yes, he plugged this in and that. Nah, I don't know. I just know when I went in there and I played Funky Space Reincarnation, Marvin Gaye, that was the first time I heard everything in the record. And I was like, wow. And I also noticed, too, I couldn't back scratch on the turntables because that's not how the tone arms were set up. Tone arms on each of the 1200s it was modified, had pulleys and weights and stuff, and it was just amazing. Sounding, it was great. But the downfall of it was the owner of the place didn't believe in promoting the night. So a philosophical stance. He wanted people to come and be there based on whatever the music was doing, no promotion. So I dug that, but, you know, looking out there seeing 20 people, you know, you're wondering, well, are people going to show? What am I doing wrong? And he's reassuring you, saying, oh, everything's all right, this is how it should be. Then you realize it's something specific he's got in mind, so you let people do their thing. But that was the best place I've been with a sound system, just retarded. And
in these days, it's all about promotion and hype to get a party started?
No, it's not. It's an alchemy. You know, you got to balance the promotion versus the location, versus your DJ, versus what's going on in the city, versus how much you're charging at the door, versus your wait staff, versus your bar staff, versus the weather.
So you don't. So you never want to open a club on your own, then? Right?
Oh no, I think about it all the time. But all of those things in line at one point make a decent party, and it's magic every time something pops off. And it sounds real cliche, and it sounds real, you know. It's magic when a party happens, because it actually really truly is. Because there's so many other things that work against you that once it pops off and it's good, you know it's good, and you try to ride it for what it is. It's like seeing a ghost or something. You know, like, oh, I'm gonna go to the attic again because maybe we'll see that ghost one more time. And that's as elusive as it gets, you know.
And speaking of funky space reincarnation, do you have it with you, maybe?
No, but I got something else, though, that's close. It's not quite the same, but it's close. I'm gonna dig a little bit.
You mentioned a few minutes earlier classics as being a
and that's
pivotal part of Chicago back in the day.
That's basically, you weren't given any respect in Chicago, and still you really aren't among people that matter unless you could play things that weren't locked up with the sequencer. You know, if you could play those things and make them fit, that's when you're given some kind of respect. If you could play nobody cared if you could play the new records over and over again. Nobody cared. Like, okay, so what? The tempos can be matched up. They can mix themselves. You set them on, they'll do it themselves. Who cares? But can you tell a story? Can you mess with Kool and the Gang, you know, and his drummer timing up at the beginning of the song, and can you catch it? Can you chase that record down? And that's what mattered, you know, in Chicago when it came down to it. Because Ron Hardy, you know, he was the guy that could play like that. You know, a lot of the other ones, Mike Williams, most of these guys can play classics, and you'd be shocked. Guys like Derek Carter, people think all he can play is this boom tis, boom tis, boom tis. No. He can play some of those other things.
So he can surf the pitch?
Oh, yes. Quite well. Oh, yes. It's no joke. Now, see, I'm running into stuff that has nothing to do with the topic of conversation. And I think I might go there anyway. All right. I'm going to get real basic. James Brown, right? Some people say he was the father of not only rap, but also house music. And I kind of concur. There's a couple tunes he did that really speak to really what a party song is about. Now, the thrust of this so far has just been, you know, party this, party that, play the music, blah, blah. I want to get into the production side of things in a minute and start talking about that transition. Because it's, to me, if you don't start off as the patron in anything that you do, like say you play bass, if you don't go out and hear a lot of bassists play, then you're starting off on the wrong foot as it is. If whatever it is you're aspiring to do, if you don't start off as a patron, as a person that has paid money to get up in there and hear what it is that you want to do, then you're off on the wrong track as it starts. You need to study that, know what that is, and know and study the people that do it well and do it consistently, and go and find that out. Find out what the particulars are. Find out what the preparation is.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the first time I really understood the importance of the mix and how important the mixing is. Because, I mean, the track just took on a whole nother meaning as soon as he started to bring that guitar down a little bit, brought the foot up, and then he dug out with the flutes. It was just it's like, oh, wow. So it really started to get in my head after I started making stuff that this is all a big I don't know, circuit, I guess, because if you got this record over here and this what this guy's doing and this other guy over here and this other guy and this other guy and this other girl and this other girl, you start to plug them all together. There's this collective body of knowledge just by listening. And if you're critical in listening and not just to the lyrics or not just to your isolated instrument that you love so much, but the whole arrangement, everything that's going on in it, and what exactly those things are, and what exactly is making the sounds that you're hearing really in your head. Like, what is it particularly about it? And it wasn't until later I realized it was the relationship of the drum to the bass in that song that really stood out to me, and how that juxtaposed all the highs that were going on with the guitar and the flute. So it was like, oh, you're not realizing until later, a lot of times. Now I'm gonna play something more contemporary. Very, very good, but this is really contemporary. And it's from an artist here from Detroit. She passed, it's Aaliyah. and you can see some of the similarities. But if you listen, there's still not, you're not getting that mixing dynamic that goes along. It's still very flat. There's not lots of great changes, but it's still really flat. You're not getting that emotive quality, because music in past, and that's what I'm kind of interested in. You not only have the different players on it, but you also have someone else arranging those players so that they look their best, so that they're presented in the best light possible. And that doesn't really happen too many times in contemporary music, except in dance music. That happens in dance music. Doesn't happen in mainstream music too much, in my opinion. Nah, we don't want that one. Bear with me, y'all. All right, that's contemporary R&B by an artist from Detroit, the past, and she's a real important artist, I think. She took chances. Like, you know, you're not gonna hear Sierra do nothing like that. You're not. You just won't. She's not gonna take that kind of risk. And that's typical of people in the Midwest. Now we want to talk about taking risks. This is a risk taker. This is brother Herbie
Hancock.
Oh yeah, Herbie Hancock. He took risks, and that's a challenge that people are scared of today. Taking risks. Risks. You got to risk it all. You cannot be afraid to put out what exactly is inside of yourself directly. You know, when you get outside of that idea of I'm making this kind of music, I'm making this kind of music, I'm making that kind of music, then all of that changes. All that changes. You end up with music like this. That's not house music. What am I doing? You came to a house lecture. It's not house music. Fuck house music, man. Fuck any moniker. Fuck any moniker that tries to limit it. Any moniker. That has everything that any genre-specific music would want to have. But it just simply defies definition. People call different musical styles other different musical styles because there is no other way to name them. There's no other way to call it something. It has to be some kind of association. I totally think this manner of thinking is bullshit and is dangerous. Because what happens, what other new forms of music do we have the potential to create out here? If we're always trying to fit into stuff that's already come along before us, then we never really have a chance to come up with new music. Everything's stuck. You know, we're still stuck in the same old shit. I mean, because basically there would be no house music if people didn't break out of disco. You know, all these different monikers are very, very dangerous things. They're very dangerous. You get into rap and hip hop. I mean, that's going through its own civil war right now. You know, reggae and dub, everything is going through a heavy time right now, because I think this could lead us to the next topic of conversation. You just sitting there looking at me. I'm just blah, blah, blah.
No, I like it.
Blah, blah, blah.
Go on.
But the idea that we have all this technology, never before in history we had this amount of technology, and we're taking things that were not necessarily created with the technical in mind and forcing them into it. i.e., I'm pretty sure Herbie didn't want this digitally downloaded. I'm pretty sure. He probably didn't even have it in mind to have it spun somewhere, DJ'd, or pitched up or down. But the idea is, when you pitch something up or down, the record still remains a record. When you take it out of its form, you no longer associate this imagery with that individual, these sounds. Now they become abstract concepts. Who is Herbie Hancock? Who gives a fuck? I got that song. See, that's where it goes, and that's the danger. And that's dangerous. Yeah, it's convenient. You ain't got to carry around records. Ain't got to worry about customs. You know, you could bring your whole collection to a party. Your whole collection? I mean, I walk into a party and I know you got access to 50,000 records. 50,000. Do you know what I'm gonna expect out of you? If I walk into, I'm gonna want my DNA changed. You're gonna have to change my DNA. Cause you got 50,000 records in an hour to play. An hour to play? How the fuck you gonna play in an hour? 50,000 records in an hour to play. All right, okay. Change my life. I walk in, my life is not changed. I leave, I'm mad. I'm at the door, I'm starting with the promoter because I'm drunk, and they told me the guy had 50,000 songs to play. I came in with expectations, and now I had 6 gin and tonics. Damn it, I want my money back. I want my money back. You better not pay him tonight. Don't pay that DJ nothing. Next time I come back, I want to hit a guy with 20 records in his box and blow my mind. That's what I want. That's what's necessary. And you can't compartmentalize that. You can't sell that for $1 a dream. Can't do that. And that's the danger of these times, because I think they can coexist. But the problem is there's too much convenience. These are dangerous. They're dangerous. Oh, they're dangerous. Records are dangerous things because fragile, you get dirty, scratches on them, and then now everything's commodified. This is worth what, $50 on eBay or something? I don't know. But it's a piece of plastic. It's fragile. If it gets cold, it'll break. If it gets hot, it'll warp. Your files ain't gonna warp. Your files are not gonna break. And that's the argument. It's more durable, it lasts. No, not if they turn the lights off. Not if they pull the plug. Not if your shit crashes and you lose your whole library. All because some fool spilled a beer on your laptop. Now you ain't got no more music. What you gonna do? At least you can wipe these off. You know, you can't wipe your Pentium XB59 off. No, you're screwed. You're hoping your boy got it, but that's the other part of it too. Now, this is another scary thing. It take you better part of 10 years to collect, in my opinion, amount of vinyl that's worthy of being presented to other people. It take you, what, a couple of minutes to download somebody's whole collection. Now the question is it worth the convenience? Maybe. But are you missing out on all of the knowledge that goes into looking for those specific records, specifically? Because you know that so-and-so played on this record, so-and-so played on that record. Are you going to take the time, get your knuckles dusty, and go meet another crazy, obsessed individual just like yourself? You know, to take that time. And not no foe meeting somebody online and, you know, their name is James, they got a big dick and big eyes. You know, what is that shit? Motherfucker's name is Jones, she got 36 double Ds. No, you meet somebody at the record store and they're picking out records. See, that's the problem with a lot of things, is now our community is going from being something where you have to go out and have conversations with people and deal with individuals. Now everybody can hide behind these phony masks, whatever they want. You never know what you're getting. And that's a whole nother cultural aspect of danger we'll talk about. But more importantly, what I want to focus on is the fact that you can't replace a record collection with a file collection. There's no way to replace it. And it's up to every one of you, if you're interested in playing music out, to decide if you're going to deal with both types of formats. Because realize the two different types of camps, because you're really cutting yourself off from individuals who respect the idea of collection. It's a family, and they will be able to tell if you don't have those records. And they're not going to look for you for those records. They're not going to be interested in replacing an important piece that you might have lost or damaged if they know that you went the cheap way and just downloaded it anyway. You know, that's the other part of it. Now, there's ways to make them coexist. I don't know what they are. I'm not here to tell you that. That's not my job. I know what I believe in. And I see the different technologies being able to play music. I think it's cool, but I think it's dangerous. Because I'm in the business of a record label. I sell records. So until they develop legislation to make it profitable for me to put my stuff on in that format, I'm not gonna mess with it. Because basically, let's say it costs $5. Sell the record for $5. If you can get it online for $1 and then you can give it to 80 of your friends for free, what's the point of me being in business? I can't eat. I can't put out something that's dangerous. I gotta do house music now. I gotta make a top 10 house hit, you know, because otherwise I'm not gonna pay my bills. And that's where it becomes dangerous, is that it has the potential to eclipse what goes on until legislation changes. You know, making it not just profitable, but at least, damn, just instead of giving away my music that you paid $1 for, can you at least make it so that if you want to give it to 5 people, just pay $5 for it? You know you're going to give it to 5 people, at least pay 5 for it. You know, get the coding right. I know there's people working on it now to get the coding right so that, you know, the artists that make this music that's going in digital format can at least eat a little. I mean, I think $1's too low for a download, personally. And then also, too, you get disenfranchised in the process. I mean, let's say the database gets scrambled. Got Herbie Hancock, Sleeping Giant online in a file. And then you got John Cougar Mellencamp in a file. Shit gets jumbled. You pull up images of Herbie Hancock. It's not Herbie Hancock. It's John Cougar Mellencamp. You're like, wait a minute, that's John Cougar Mellencamp. So you put history on there, you got time. Hell, Herbie Hancock becomes this guy, John Cougar Mellencamp, and John Cougar Mellencamp becomes this beautiful, you know, keyboard player, seminal guy. It all changes. Those are kind of silly mistakes that can happen over time, and you know that's my biggest issue with a lot of it, is just that we don't get to give the imagery of who really is doing the music, who's doing this. That gets lost. It becomes the machine, you know. But you know, it's America, it's the Western world. We like convenience. You know, we love convenience. It's convenient. I've got 70,000 records at my disposal. Oh, sorry, files. My disposal. It's convenient. And they wonder why they can't go see certain people in concert anymore. Because it wasn't convenient for them to be there. They didn't see the convenience in coming to go in concert if they only gonna make $1,000 when they were sold. They got signed for $50 million. It's not convenient. It's just dangerous times. We just got to use this technology responsibly. A little bit of taste. And everybody who plays vinyl and aspires to play vinyl, tack 30% on your fee just because you're bringing records. Just because you're bringing records, tack 30% on. Just 30%. Vinyl surcharge. It's a vinyl surcharge. That's what it costs. 30%. You know. Let everybody else sort it out. He wants 30% more than so-and-so. Why? He's bringing vinyl. Oh. I gotta watch out for these vinyl guys. Watch them. So you got me talking shit about the vinyl shit. Boy, we got a fight. It's a fight. All right, Lil Louis again. This is Why'd You Fall. This song is one of the first songs I heard the human voice incorporated into something contemporary in terms of dance music. And I was like, this is bugged out. I remember the first time I heard it, blew my mind as usual. Lil Louis always blowing somebody's mind. You go into a spot and he's playing this weird little vocal thing and then it goes somewhere totally different. So here it goes. I think this is the right one. If I don't have it right, I'll just turn it over.
I've tried to be reasonable.
No, I tried to be reasonable too. Yeah. That's the wrong reason. Turn it on this side, make sure I got it. He took that why fall and just went into that keyboard part and kept moving with it. And what I thought was interesting is the track didn't really take off until the second part came in. It was dum 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 dum, and it's that additive and subtractive part of it that kind of harkens back to the thing that James Brown was doing with the engineering on it. When you bring certain parts up and back, changes a lot. And that's prevalent in dance music because you got people actually moving, but then when you're able to move these parts that are huge parts of the arrangement back and forth, depending on when you bring them in, when you take them out, you can really bring people's emotions up. Now, there was a song I did recently, it's coming out on my new album, and I really kind of, I mess with that idea a lot, where you layer and you layer and you layer and you take it back, and basically it's based on the same groove over and over. This part will be edited from the online part because this is unreleased, so please, we can't have any of my shit out there like that, please.
But what was this Little Louis track now? Techno house or acid?
You decide. You guys decide what it is. It's jazz to me. Yeah, that's jazz. You know, that's jazz. You know, I'll get kicked off a jazz station playing that though. You know, and that's
a good answer.
Those are the issues from it. And then, I mean, essentially, the reason I say it's jazz, because I remember reading somewhere a quote that Miles said. He said that all music is jazz. It's the only definition that defies definition. All of it. So, we can tell that to Garth Brooks, he's doing jazz. He just don't know it.
When had you saved enough school money up to buy equipment to make fine pieces of jazz like this?
All right, that's a funny story. When I was 14, my uncle, I was living in my grandmother's house, and my uncle had a band, and his band used to practice in the basement. And I was living in my grandmother's house, and he didn't tell me that it was okay for me to take his keyboard up to my room in my grandmother's house. So I procured it, took it upstairs and made stuff. And it was basically, I stole the keyboard for a while until he found out. And I lied to my grandmother, which is a no-no. You don't lie to your grandmother. But I lied to my grandmother and told her that Dexter, my uncle, said it was okay for me to take the keyboard upstairs. I was like, yeah, he said it was cool, yeah. Because I knew I was going to try to finish it before he came back over there. He came home early. Needless to say, he was not happy. You lied to my mother? And so it was a big issue. But that was the first piece of equipment I got a hold of. After that, went to school, was on a scholarship, went to Kansas City Art Institute, and went in for painting, of all things. Ended up in sculpture. Went from sculpture to performance. Performance turned into sound sculpture. Because I figured at that point that basically you don't give a person a degree to be an artist. You give them a degree to be able to eat being an artist. So if you're gonna go to school to be an artist, then basically you just need to be on your shit. You need to know what it is that you're trying to say. Because chances are somebody's already said what you're trying to say and better. So what's your point? And I had instructors like that would get in your head and really make you think, okay, you're a great technical artist, but so the fuck what? What do you have to say that's any different than somebody else that's already done it better than you anyway? Who are you? Who cares? What's your point? So you're always in a state of having to not necessarily defend your art, but comment on why your concepts, comment on why you feel what you're saying is important. And after dealing with someone like that, I just kind of was like, well, there's something I was focusing on. That was the idea of arrangement versus the traditional idea of music theory. What those strange places in between noises and and notes and I came to the conclusion that the only thing that differentiates the two is the fact that noises generally have no specific arrangement. And if you simply arrange noise without any kind of key structure or fitting into music theory or anything like that, that those things can easily constitute songs. It's arrangement, and that's an arrangement meaning specific placement of initiation of sound. It doesn't have to be in key. It doesn't have to always fit that mode. If what you're doing is truly your direct expression, if it's really what you're trying to say. And that's where I went in school. I basically had no equipment until I got out of school. I came to Detroit. I came to Detroit because I was broke. I just got out of school. I didn't know what I was doing myself. Was there on a scholarship. Came back home, was gonna just work at the factory or something. My mother convinced me to try to get a job teaching art. I worked for one summer when I taught art to preschoolers for a summer at Cranbrook. They kicked me out of there.
Why? You're a great teacher.
Well, it doesn't matter. Because I had the students painting red floors in there. I just turned them loose with finger paint. It's like, yeah, paint, yes, all right, create. Show me your masterpiece at the end of an hour. You know, kids, 5-year-olds just pouring shit out. It was great. I loved it until the end when I had to clean up. There was a big stain on the floor. And that was the most pristine art room I've ever seen. And it was this huge pink stain. Like, I don't know, man, 3 feet square. And the supervisor came and said, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm teaching the kids how to paint. You got some Picassos and Van Goghs in this motherfucker. We gonna make some shit." And they were just like, "No, what's the stain on the floor?" I was, "Oh, the stain, don't worry about the stain. You see this kid's painting, it's amazing." "The stain, Mr. Parrish, the stain, that's not good. We just laid that floor." I was like, but the kid's painting, what's wrong with you? I'm an artist. They're like, "Fuck you, you fucked up the floor, you're fired." And that was the end of that. So I was out of there and came back home and said, "Mom, I tried to teach art. You know, I keep going to the damn record store. I'm cracked out on records, man. I'm living in your basement. I'm just gonna get a job at a factory." I wanted something that I could let go of, because at that point, I knew I wasn't cut out for any teaching. At least not then, not there. There were too many things that were tugging on me. And one of the biggest things that was tugging on me was spending the last 4.5 years pretending to be in college and just barely skating through, but really playing music every weekend that I could down in Kansas City, trying to bring something, you know, just collecting all these tunes. There were all these great record stores there. You can find cuts that I see online now for $100, $200. They were for 25 cents, 79 cents. And I would just go up there all the time. "Give me that, yes. I'm not going to class today." No, I'm listening to this song. So that sort of thing was happening. But then to answer your question, it wasn't until I stopped working at the Cranbrook place, and I got in contact with a couple of people in dance music and started working for them. Like you had Dan Bell. He has DBX, people know him as. Maybe a few of you know who he is.
Seven
City Distribution. He had me putting in floors, 7 City. He didn't know anything about my production or DJing, any of that. I just was putting in floors because I lied and told him I knew how to put in floors. I didn't know how to put in. I just wanted a job. I didn't give a damn, you know. Yeah, I could put in your floors. Yeah, how hard could it be? I used to weld steel. I'll be all right. So I didn't know how to put in floors, but he ended up hiring me. And but before that, I was working for Ron Trent at Prescription, the KMS, which is in the basement. And I was over there looking after the studio whenever Ron Trent and Shady Mir were coming out of town. They hired me over there to clean up. So I go over there and make tracks. That was the exchange. I could use the studio. And so I really didn't have equipment for a long, long time. a long, long time. And then finally, I started working at 7 City Distribution once I got up and running. And somebody else that you all might know, Claude Young, was getting rid of a piece of equipment. And this is a common practice. Always barter. If you're getting tired of a piece of equipment, look around, find a youth, give it to them. You know, give it to them for cheap if you're done with it, because they're gonna turn it into something. Don't go back to the store with it, give it to somebody. You know, make sure that they're gonna use it, make sure they don't take it back, because that's what happened with me. Claude Young gave me his old SB12. That was the beginning of it. He said, here. And I said, well, how much? He said, $500. I said, no problem. Yeah, it was a problem. I wasn't making no money, but I knew that, you know, I wasn't paying full rent in my mother's basement, you know. So I leaned on her for a while. I got some money from the job I was working and bought it from her. And, you know, once I got that, it was great. I just made track after track after track. He then sold me a Juno 106, which was broken. I didn't care, I still used it in this broken state. Made tracks with the SB12 and that, and there's little tricks you use, because the SB12 had like what? How many sample seconds? What, 2.5 seconds or something crazy like that? About that. So let's say I wanted to get a snare or something, because I had no outboard gear, put it in there, got a 45+8 that thing. And then when you got it into the SB12, tune it down, it would have that grainy sound on it, like a lot of like Wu-Tang and Pete Rock stuff he sounded like. And it's Premiere too. A lot of those same kind of, and Mad Lib too. A lot of that weird tone on it. But we didn't care because it was made to go. Fuck it. However it went is how it went. So I used it. And then eventually, it was a real gradual process. Got a hold of an SB1200, bought that from somebody, traded up some stuff, got a hold of a Lesis MMT8 sequencer, got a hold of that, started using that with the Juno. So, I mean, every piece was, I was blessed to have a real gradual introduction to every single piece that I used, and I had to use them for so long that I got to know them really intimately. So each change up was different. The first piece that I actually went out and bought from a store was the MPC 2000 XL. That piece changed it all for me, because that was the first piece I had that was able to deal with the way I was making music, because that's a big part of it, is knowing what pieces of equipment are going to be important for your methodology. Like what's your method? And there's no such thing as there being, well, the new shit is the great shit because it's this. No, if it fits your methodology, use it. Doesn't matter if you're rubbing 2 sticks together in a rock and with a microphone. If that's what gets your thing out, then do it. You know, don't get held up by the methodology. And so that's where it kind of shifted for me, because I went in there and I bought this MPC and I was like, wow, I gotta learn this thing now. And then so I still use it to this day. I mean, I'm still learning the MPC. Damn a Pro Tools. I can't use the Pro Tools, because I'm still not convinced I haven't gotten everything out of this one piece of machinery that I know. And that's just my methodology. I like to learn something until there's no more capabilities out of it. And if I can do that, then I will continue to, you know, and that's how I kept shifting. And so at the time, I was really doing a lot of sample-based stuff. So a MPC would suit me just fine. It wasn't really about a whole lot of arrangement. It wasn't about a lot of key playing. It wasn't about a lot of that. It's about finding tones and arranging them and mixing them in a manner that was, you know, strong, because I simply just didn't have the capability. And if I wanted layers and complex, lush things like that, I had to make it work with the MMT8 and the Juno 106. That shortly changed. I put out a release, things got good, I got excited, quit my job. I was working at that time at a liquor packing plant. It's called General Wine and Liquor. So if you can imagine all day hanging around with a bunch of drunks, putting bottles of fifths of Jack Daniel in boxes like for 13 hours a day. And you get a call from France, BMG France, they telling you, hey, we like your tracks. We're gonna give you a $1,500 advance. I'm like, yes. I went in and quit my job. I just thought I had hit the big time. Quit my job, after I quit my job, my mom was like, "Are you sure? They're only giving you $1,500. Are you sure you're gonna quit your job?" I was like, "Yeah, that's what I want to do, Mom. It's the beginning of something." She's like, "Okay, well, get out." Get out? What you mean get out? Well, you're doing your thing. It's time for you to go. But I was just kidding. I mean, I got one thing. No, you gotta go. It's like, well, gotta step out, step into tomorrow. So I ended up going back to General Wine. And I asked for my job back, got it back, and moved out. Once I moved out, I knew it was on, because at that point, I started my label. And
Sound Signature.
Yeah, Sound Signature. That's shameless promotion, the whole deal. But once I started that, that's when it all kind of changed, where it's like, all right, I gotta hustle. I gotta make sure that I got stuff coming out. But the beauty of it was, I can't really. I'm not gonna go in a box. I'm not gonna try to do what I've heard. I'm gonna try to do what I feel feels right, So ended up just putting out what I felt, trading off with a couple of buddies of mine that were in it already, and tried to help them out as much as they could, as much as I could. They tried to help me out as much as they could, and try to get some music out, and it did work. And just taking a step, taking a leap of faith, and knowing that it's all on me now. And every concept I have in my head and how I wanted to manifest is totally on me from beginning to end, from the time it wakes me up out of bed till the first 30-day return after the distributors get a hold of it. And everything in between there, label design, mastering. You have to learn all of these different things to be able to do it. And I ended up learning. Some of them I was good at, some of them I wasn't. But the one thing I knew that, I at least had some kind of experience that was making a track, because it wasn't really about me really making something to be made for consumption anyway, because I've been doing it since I was 13. So I said, hell, just keep the same ethics. I just want people to go off at the party. So stay right with that shit. And that's what happened.
And you try to stay in control of everything, right? Do it yourself, aesthetics of your label, and
not anymore. It changes a lot.
But you were very aware of that in the beginning,
right? You have to be, because it's something you build from the ground up. So every aspect of it is something that you're gonna have to have a different hat to deal with, and still create, and still be intuitive, and still possibly have a social life, because we don't really realize how much what we do socially affects what comes out of us creatively. I mean, that means a world of difference. Like my uncle told me, how much time you spend on the track? I said, 11 hours. He was like, 11 hours? After 4 hours, go take a break, go outside, go live. You're dead now. I'm like, what do you mean I'm dead? He's like, you're dead. I didn't understand what he was talking about. He was saying that if you don't live life, you have nothing to draw experiences from. If you don't go through ups and downs and pains and things, you're basically just masturbating for people. Look how well I can jack off. I jack off so well. I can jack off in this flavor and that flavor. No, I mean, are you living? Are you really talking about something? Are you really going through life? Are you really dealing with something that somebody can handle, And that's what a lot of it is, reflection, human experience. That's what people hear underneath the notes and can relate to. Is someone on the other side of somewhere going through something that they may be going through. And that's the place to try to be at. Many people can make great tracks, but you can always point them out. That sounds like a so-and-so track. And I used to get scared of that. People being able to identify what I'm doing. So, well, that's so-and-so sound. Why do you make things like this? I don't know. To come out that way. It's like asking somebody to define their defecation, Like, why is your dookie green? Because of what I've been intaking. Because that's what I've been going through. And those are sort of things that we forget about, that it's really just an extreme visceral experience, Crying because you were hit, laughing because something made you feel good.
Inspiration and ingestion?
All of it. All of it.
And what was the first track you put out? back
The
then?
first one I put out, that would have been on KDJ 15, good buddy of mine. It was Lakeshore Drive, was the name of the track.
Do you happen to have it with you?
You know what? I'm gonna check and see. I might not have it with me.
And who is this KDJ fella?
Hey, I don't know. You got to talk to him about it. Our brother Kenny, he's been doing this thing a little bit longer than us.
He's also known as the mysterious Moody Man, right?
Yeah, he is known as the mysterious Moody Man. That's very true. And he actually let me put a track of mine out on his 5th release, KDJ number 5. And that's Lakeshore Drive. I'm gonna see if I can locate it for you guys. If not, then I'll have to grab something I did in '87 or something. Some real, I don't know, stinky business. Just stinky. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know. I might not have brought it, man. Yeah.
What a shame.
Yeah, man, it is a shame. It's actually not that great a shame because I don't like the track anymore. And that's
Really?
funny how it grows.
Why is that?
Because it's all sample based. It's basically, I could tell you, if someone can explain their song to you, it's generally something they don't like. It's a damn mass production sample with some 909 under it.
I still like it.
Yeah, it's all right. It does this thing. But, you know, as you start making things over and you start realizing how limiting the bigger samples you take are, you know. If you're really trying to put your mark, your fingerprint, you're really having to base it around somebody else's imprint. You know, it's a difficult thing to do.
You also started to work with quote-unquote real musicians, right?
Right.
The last few years.
Yeah, pretty
The
much.
Rotating assembly,
Yes.
as it is called.
Yeah, that's a unit that I more or less formed to have when it came time to do live things. Because someone was like, well, you should do a live thing. And I said, well, I can't imagine me standing behind an MPC being that interesting for a couple hours or something. But if I were to get some individuals that I like playing with, some people that I've been doing music with to come with me, and then that might be kind of interesting. So I talked to a lot of musicians I was cutting with at the time, and this is over the course of several years. I really didn't start working with other musicians until, I don't know, maybe my 13th release, 11th release, and there were these guys called Jazzhead, a group, and I would go see them because they were the only ones that I heard in the city playing the kind of stuff that I like to hear in terms of a jazz band really get down. And they just blew my mind half the time. They were going to Brazilian stuff. They were going to, you know, Herbie Hancock stuff. They had this Herbie Hancock. I can play that. It was a cover that they would do of this song that just blew my mind. And once I heard them do this, that's when I knew I had to. People familiar with this album? Yeah, I think you all know what I'm about to play off here. So that Watermelon Man really did it. I said, I got to cut with these guys. And so they hit me with this attitude. They were like, well, why do we need this DJ motherfucker? Who's this old DJ motherfucker? We don't need him. You know, but I slowly broke them down because they actually heard me play. And I ended up residenting at a spot called Alvin's in Detroit where they would play. So I opened for them a couple times, and we ended up knocking heads, kicking it for a minute, and it ended up going all right. We ended up working on a lot of stuff, so I got some of that stuff with me too. So I'll play the Herbie Hancock first, before the Herbie Hancock. I'm gonna play some early work, and you all can check out the progression. That track when I was up in my mother's basement, my grandmother's house, and I stole my uncle's keyboard. This track is called Insane Asylum. It was made in 1987. And I put it out much later because I didn't really believe in the song, because I didn't think it needed to come out. I was like, man, that is far too wild. It needs to stay where it's at and not even be heard from. But a good buddy of mine talked me into put it out. He works with me now at the label. His name's Howard Thomas. He said, man, put that out. That's sweet. I said, no, man, it's garbage. But he said, no, man, it's sweet. It shows something. I said, what? He said, it shows that you've been somewhere. I don't know what that means, but okay, I'll put it out. You say so. So I put it out. And this isn't it. I gotta find out where it is. That's not it. And yeah, this is it. Yeah, it's crazy. If you notice, there's no hi-hats or anything else in the track. It's just the foot and the little keyboard line. Now, what was funny was, it's funny how, you know, necessity is the mother of invention. This is a perfect example of that. You had this Kawai beat machine that I had MIDI to this Casio keyboard, and I programmed everything up in the Kawai, and it registered everything that was going on in the Casio. But the drums didn't fit it at all. The drums were crazy as hell. So I ended up turning the drums down on the Kawai, and the only thing that was worth the damn was the foot. So I left that in, and so I noticed that there was a pitch bender on the side of the Casio, so that's how I would go up and down like that. Now the pauses, I just ended up stopping the Kawai on the fly. So then I hit it again. Now there was also parts where it gets real crunchy sounding. Now how the hell did that do? It had no filters. The RCA on the back of the keyboard had a short in it, and it was plugged into the back of the mixer where I was recording it on cassette. And I would jiggle the cord, and it would make the sound and be bugged out, and then when I didn't like it again, I'd hit it again, and it would straighten out the signal. Necessity is the mother of invention. You're not gonna get that kind of thing with Cakewalk or anything like that. You're not gonna get anything that hands-on. And so that's just my methodology. I like to touch things as they go. Some people are a little more cerebral with their music making. I have no problem with that. But my methodology was, you know, that's how I get down. But that was a real interesting time because I didn't even know anything about mixing down or separating instruments or any of that stuff. I had no idea any of that. So that's where that went. Yeah.
So you can see yourself being a software guy in the near or far future?
It just doesn't have the same hands-on thing for me. You know, for me, I like knowing that there's knobs and levers for me to push and take things out and know that when I go like that, that does something. That's where it makes sense for me. Knowing that I got to point and click and that's how I'm turning it down, nah, can't get with it. That's just not my thing. I know that there's all this technology now. Like, this is where I get upset. This is where I check out. Drum programming is some of the most difficult and easy part of making, you know, this kind of music that exists, or any kind of music for that matter. It's easy and difficult at the same time. It's easy to get interesting patterns going. It's difficult to get basic patterns that are interesting going. That's hard because you have everything lined up. You got a click track. How do you make these songs have a rhythm pattern that's really doing something and really getting with people, but yet and still not just be a bunch of mud. It's just kicking and clacking all over the place. It's a difficult thing. So I guess I get upset when I hear a track and I can tell they just loop somebody else's drums and just piece something together. It irritates me. Now, what's interesting is I'm guilty of the same crime. Because I went and got somebody's 2-bar hook, threw some drums over it, and called it my own. Now, part of that's ignorance. Other part of that is, what am I going to do with that? So my music making changed. You have to follow your instincts and what you're supposed to be doing musically, too. Because if I hadn't done it, I wouldn't be where I am. And one of the main things was, someone was tugging on me saying, yeah, you loop somebody's stuff. And yeah, you put drums on, you came up with a new track because no one was thinking about that 2-part bit of that song. That's true. But if I continue to do that, am I really gonna grow? I mean, really. So it went from that to doing a little sample of somebody and then playing over that sample, learning where they're at and growing from that. So, and then after that, it started being about taking that sample out. So it's like having training wheels on your bike and taking one off at a time. You know, and then eventually you end up riding on your own. And, you know, that's kind of where it went. Because this was actually before the sampling thing. You know, the track we just heard. That was way before, when that was all about MIDI. And it wasn't really about sampling. Now it's come full circle. It went to sampling, then went to playing with the sampling, then went to, never mind the sampling, having musicians come in. Now, I take beef with people that have 9 guys come in and play a song and then they put their name on it, give them no credit. That's, yeah, you may have been a producer, but you're still not giving credence to the people that put their energy on there. Now that's a big problem, I think, in dance music, is that you got a lot of guys going around saying, I'm so-and-so, and they're really riding off of a band's backing. Name those people. That's all I ask on your record. If your name is so-and-so, then name the other guys who played on that. Never mind if you wrote it, that's fine. Credit it properly. It's real simple, but there's a lot of shady business going on like that. And that was something that I didn't want to have happen with the Rotating Assembly. Yep, I produced every track on this album. We did an album, it's called the Rotating Assembly Natural Aspirations. The important part is, yeah, like for instance, I'm all over the place right now. I just got caught by 7 different thoughts. I'm trying to touch on each one. Okay, Herbie Hancock, Headhunters. Herbie Hancock, right? Okay, Herbie. But who are these guys? They're all named on here. They're all named on there. You know, if it says a Rotating Assembly, it needs to say every person that's on there. And that's where I got off on that. But okay, I'm at Alvin's. I met these guys and they played this song or covered this, and I knew I wanted to work with them. So here we go. And that's when I walked in. I was like, oh wow, these guys are bad. So after warming up to the idea of them having someone that's approaching music from a different angle, working with them, they were able to get down with me, and I've been working with them ever since. Play some of the stuff that we've been working on, stuff that's due out on the next Rotating Assembly album, and that's I went in a lot of different directions with them. I really had a kinship with the guitarist. He's one of the most amazing guitarists I've heard. I dare say in the heart of Seattle that he is the 21st century Jimi Hendrix. I dare say it. But, you know, I say it nevertheless. He's bad. I was under the assumption that guys in a band would go out and play and make tons of cash. And because it's so talented, they can almost go on autopilot and do their thing. I thought it was just a bunch of solos all night. I had this real weird concept of what live music was about. Didn't really understand the kind of chemistry a band has to have to really hit, to really do something. And then in the studio, the clarity and the openness that you have to really get into a pocket with people is something else too that I previously had nothing to do with. Now I had no problem getting on time with the beat, but getting in the pocket with people is a different kind of thing. And then conversely, getting the musicians who aren't necessarily used to playing on a structured beat like that to do that too. So it's that strange relationship you had to negotiate. So that was an interesting part. So that's part of what I learned there. Now, the track that I played earlier, I call that synthetic phlegm. I really don't do that much in terms of sampling and sequencing so much anymore. I'm a lot more interested in playing all the way through a song. So on that first track that I played for you guys, that was all more or less me playing keys live over everything. Just, I record the track down and play keys all the way through it. Layers, to mix it. It doesn't sound that way. I don't care. That's what feels good to me right now. And that's where I'm at. one of the ones that popped up that inspired me recently to get up and do was I was sleeping. I'm recently married, and my wife, we were going through this whole love nest thing, you know, the love nest, and I was feeling very romantic in the morning, and on the radio, this is Al Green, Love and Happiness. I was like, wow, love and happiness, yeah. I just got out of bed. And usually, my wife doesn't like me to get out of bed before she does, you know. But I was just like, I'm going downstairs. She's like, what's going on? You all right? I was like, yes. So I go down there, and about 5 minutes later, my wife's right behind me. And I'm trying to work out the melody to Love and Happiness. Trying to get that dun 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 dun. Couldn't quite get it. And then she helped me out. She's like, well, do it like this. And I was like, no, it's the wrong key. I just don't know what it is. She's like, why don't you just sample? I was like, no samples. Will not be sampling in this house. And so I finally figured it out, and I'm gonna play what I came up with. And it's kind of, I know it's kind of crazy. I don't know if I brought it. If I brought it, then I'm in good shape. But if I didn't bring it, yeah, then you all can just pretend that I did it. Let me see, where is it? I'm actually gonna be disappointed if I didn't bring it, because I really want to hear it now. Uh-oh, maybe I didn't bring it. Well, believe me, I did. For real. I did do it. Let me look a little bit further, because I really want to play it now. And why is that? Whenever you want something really bad, you can't have it. What's up with that? Where is it at? Oh, that sucks, man. Oh, no. Oh, no.
So you have to describe what it sounds like.
Nah, y'all know it. Y'all know what that sounds like. Y'all know what I think everybody knows what that song sounds like. So I'll play some real fucked up shit that I did instead. Just fucked up shit. Some stuff that just fell out my head recently. And it it has no rhyme or reason. And that's precisely the point. Like, fuck it. One of those. Which everything should be, but that's the other lesson, is that the more that you try to make it so, it eludes. I'd like to open up if anyone has any questions about the production process or anything like that. Take any questions if you can ask anything. There nobody has anything to say.
They're scared of you.
No, they're not. They're not scared of me. I ain't nothing to be scared of.
But to give them a few minutes to think about their questions, they not have yet. How is Detroit these days? You know, there's all this myths about Detroit, the abandoned city.
It's cold. It's just snowing a little bit,
I meant a little bit more in regards to the music
the
scene.
music there. It's pretty much how it's been for the past 20, 30 years. And that's chock full of some of the most talented people you ever meet when it comes to music. And thank you very much. And that's a consistent thing. Well, yeah. It's consistent with the region. And that's Ohio, Chicago. I call it the rust in the water syndrome. If you look at, that area of the States, it seems like the core of music as we know it today originated out of there. And that's and I think it's remarkable. I mean, I really do think it's because of the high iron content in the lakes, in the Great Lakes. All that rust, all that steel back and forth, all that stuff. And you got everybody from, it goes all the way down to St. Louis. You got everybody from Miles Davis to Quincy Jones to all these greats that, spent significant time there. The Jacksons, to even get into all the other Motown, the obvious stuff. But just to answer your question, I think Detroit specifically is the home of contemporary music making and production today. I think that And that's coming from someone from Chicago. I think that, you know, really the original ideas that come out of the people there are just totally and completely amazing. Most of the time when I hear music from other places, it usually sounds like something I've heard. Maybe I'm biased. That's a possibility. That's a likelihood, actually. But, you know, just listening out there and seeing it, it seems like a lot of stuff is coming, is not necessarily an echo from there, but you hear JD and then you hear the Cyra guys. And you see the call and answer. And you go, wait a minute, it's gonna come back around. Huh? I just know it, you know, and see it go out, come back. You know, you see the Wine Atkins and then you see the Burial mix. You know, back and forth all the time. And in terms of a community, is pretty much everybody knows everybody else. Sort of deal. I mean, everybody knows everybody else in some way, shape, form, or fashion, or one of their students of the many arts that go along there. You know, because there's the funk group. You know, that's everybody and anybody that's played along with the P-Funk guys, and everyone that's come along out of that ilk, from, you know, Brainstorm down to Amp Filler down to Dumini the Porous. You know, and then you got all the people coming from, you know, the hip-hop side of things, and all the different cats coming out of there, JD most likely, and then, you know, the guys that are put in kind of a strange other category, you know. I mean, there's so many different angles to talk about Detroit, it's almost impossible. Because, I mean, really, there's more qualified people to talk about Detroit, really. You know, Rick, want to talk about Detroit? Go on, man, talk about Detroit, man. Huh?
He's hiding.
No, he's not hiding. That guy can't hide, man.
But would you say that, like, all this talk about Detroit being a economically abandoned place feeds creativity?
I'd say that's an accurate description. It says economically deprived is a big deal, but I think that has a lot to do with the whole do or die attitude of the place. It's like you get to being about what you're about, or you get to faking it. And usually if you fake it, you never make it. So, you know, it's real simple. It's, you know, you do the best you can with what you got, and you try your best to be as honest as possible.
Realism? Realism?
Realism. Yes, realism. It's just no joke. It's no joke. It's not as you do. See, it's a strange question when you go, okay, what's that place like? Because you almost do it a disservice by even putting it in the words. You know, come to the Detroit Electronic Music Weekend. I'm not gonna say festival. I'm gonna say weekend, because we never know it's gonna be festival until like the day before. So come to the weekend. There's gonna be something going on. Come to Detroit firsthand. There's rumor out there. There's word out there. There's this and there's that. Put it like this. Everybody who's doing stuff in there, you're going to get the best performances you've ever seen from them, because they know this is one of the few times out of the year we get some kind of attention. Besides the music we get out to you via other channels, we know that people don't come to Detroit. We want that to change. We need people to come and realize that it's a beautiful, beautiful hotbed of talent, and it's there, and we need it, and that's a big part of it. That once you come through there, you'll see guys you never heard of play the best sets you've ever heard, you know, play the best songs you've ever heard. You know, you get the performance of people's lives out of them during that weekend, because they know it's time to put up or shut up during that time.
And you get to see Theo Parrish too, right?
Oh, no, you don't get to see me. Ooh. I'm going to stand out to the side like everybody else and watch. No, I tend to pull back from it these days. Originally, when the first one went off, I did, but these days I'm much more interested in independent parties, because there's plenty of people to play on the stages and at the festival. There's not a lot of the parties that make, you know, the kind of meat and potatoes of, let's say, okay, after the performance is done, let's go over here, catch a step somewhere. I'm more interested in participating in that aspect of it. And that's those sort of things in development. But that's the place to come. Come that weekend, please. Everybody come.
It's in May, right?
Yep, in May. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's everybody knows Memorial Day weekend here in the States. Those of you not from here, we have this. What's it called? 4th of July? No, that's the 4th of July. Memorial Day. What is the celebration of Memorial Day? What is that about? Is that just a miscellaneous holiday in the States? Does anybody know where that came from? Memorial Day. It's like Dead Veterans Day. That's what it's about. My whole life, I've never known what the hell that's about. But yeah, Memorial Day weekend, come to Detroit. There you go. Come through. Yeah? A date. As soon as I know, we'll know. I know every year there's a Memorial Day, and there's a Memorial Day weekend. There we go. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any questions? So we need a few microphones.
Let's see.
We have only one.
Okay, cool.
You have to give it around.
Pass it up. There we go.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Yeah, that's good. Hello. I wanted to ask about signature sounds.
Okay.
Because when you hear a Theo Parrish record, you can tell pretty quickly that it's a Theo Parrish record, in my opinion. Whether that's rotating assembly or the older stuff that you did with the SP1200. And I guess the question is, how do you go about did you ever in your head have like a kind of list of things like, okay, this is how I'm going to make this record, this is what I'm going to leave in, this is what I'm going to leave out, and how did you kind of translate that sound to the live band as well?
A lot of that comes down to the mix. A large part of it comes to the mix. It's far more intuitive than any plan or concept that I could write down and come up with. You know, it's basically the idea of recording a bunch of sounds, isolating those sounds, and being able to, work the sounds in between them, like really deal with the relationships between sounds, like sonic conversations. So if you got a drum, and that drum has a lot of mid in it, and you got a snare, and then you got a hi-hat on top of it, what's going to be the best balance of those three elements, and what are they going to carry over in the song, depending on the song? Like I know a big deal was number 4. I don't know if you're familiar with number 4, sound section number 4, where the timing flip-flops. I had no idea that I was going to have it flip-flop like that. It just ended up being a glitch that happened in the mix. Because there's a point where this track that I'm talking about is sound section number 4. It's everything is played on the off time. So you got the foot, and then it comes off. So it's dun, 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 dun. Now there's a break in the middle where it just goes dun, 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 and you lose sense of where your timing is at that point. Happy accident. And those sort of things, that kind of intuitive idea, I leave alone. I don't mess with. I try to keep my mixes as fluid as possible. Now, since that song, there have been a lot of different changes in the studio. I've come across this wonderful piece made by Roland called the VS880. I love that machine. I am addicted. They made other incarnations of it, the 1880 and the 2480. I've upgraded to the 2480. That's when the band became really, really easy to work with, because I could isolate everybody, and I could still, once I did all the main recording, got that intuitive feel in the mix. And that's what I think you're talking about, is the dropouts, the isolations, the changing of the sonic relationships.
Because it's just like, I don't know, I'm wondering how you go about, making it, or how you, especially the early stuff like Moonlight, maybe, something like that, where, is it kind of like a dub thing where you've got the channels running out of the sampler into a mixing desk and you're bringing it in and out and it's a one drop kind of thing? Or Do you see what I'm getting at? I don't know if it's difficult to explain or not, but...
Nah, I understand what you're talking about. Yeah, it's done very much like that, where you have everything isolated, running to a main board, and then that main board is running it down to something that's recording onto master. Simply, and I mix it till I get it right. If it takes 12 times to mix it till I like the way it goes, it takes 12 times. If it takes one, if it's the first take, which usually it is, first mix is usually the gold star mix, and I'll put that one out. But yeah, it's usually each channel isolated, each one of them have something, and track starts. If I like the beginning, one part, and then just follow the song as it goes. Does that answer your question?
It does. It
Wonderful.
does.
Hi.
Yeah.
Mr. Parish, you mentioned at the beginning that you knew several DJ selectors in the early days of house that you consider to be very good DJ selectors, and yet they didn't make a name for themselves.
Right.
What made the difference between the ones that did make it and the ones that did not, and what advice would you give to us?
Well, some of it is luck, plain luck. Some of it is plain luck. The rest of it is hard work, diligence, and dedication. You can never go wrong having hard work, dedication, and diligence in your ethic. That's always something. Laziness is probably one of the most common human traits worldwide, second only to fear. And if you can challenge those two things with what you do, then I can't see how you couldn't be successful no matter what, as long as you stay on what you're doing and remain true to your decisions. I mean, that's another big part. You see these guys, and you've known them to be out there, and you're talking about the selection process. Some guys only are interested in DJing. That the point that they will make is, why would I put a record out if all I'm interested in doing is playing records? Not making them, playing them. Because right now it's such a career advance move. You know, a move for career advancement. If you DJing and, hey, I'm gonna make our track, you can pretty much sure that people are gonna pay more attention to you. I would suggest keep it solid, keep it pure. Which one is tugging you the most? You know, if you're a DJ / producer, which one are you really interested in? Not which one are you good at. Fuck what you're good at. I mean, really, fuck what you're good at. Because what you're good at will come to you again. You don't have to worry about what you're good at. You're always going to go back to what you're good at. What are you being tugged at to do? You know, because that's what you need to hone. Because you can get good at anything. All it is time, dedication, and diligence, once again. So if you say, well, I want to be a producer, that's great. Are you good at it? Yes, okay. Hone it, great. What makes you live? What would you die for? Ask yourself that question. Would you die for a handful of records? And if you can't answer that question, honestly, with a yes, then you need to think about the company you're keeping when you're around individuals that have answered that question with themselves already. And that's the sort of thing. Like, I know a lot of guys in Chicago right now that have been playing longer than most of the name DJs we know, and would tear them a new asshole in a battle. But the point is, they stayed true to what it was that they wanted to do. They knew that all they wanted to do was play those parties, and they continued to do that. And they might have dabbled in production, but it was never anything that tugged them in another direction. So they kept on living, made families, got regular jobs, but did that and keep doing it. So it's really a personal choice. And being organized helps a lot, you know, making sure that you're not only a good selector, but you're a proficient purveyor of sound. It's one thing to say, I play all these great songs. Who cares? Do you do those songs justice? Are you quick to give a person who asks you about the song the album cover so they can read it and see what it looks like? Or are you one of these guys that covers up the record because you don't want nobody to see it? You know, that's the difference. And I mean, do you want people to hear and share that, or are you all about you keeping it for yourself? And that's the double-edged dagger again, you know, because most times it's a transition. You go from one to the other. You start off as a guy that marks up all his records with a marker so no one can read it because you got your ego involved. But then over years, you start realizing it really doesn't help anyone but yourself. And who gives a damn if that night you didn't play that record well? At least this way, they know who to look for. They have an idea. They might have seen it before. And at least they'll remember a name or something. You ain't got to stop your set to have some guy who's been trained spotting you all night to give him the proper. No, you ain't got to do that. But if you got a minute, give them the album jacket and keep on stepping. If they want to know that song as they're doing it. I mean, I've had guys come up and take pictures of the damn records I'm playing. Like, come on, man. Give me a minute. But the theory, the argument would be, why don't you want him to know? So, all right, a little invasive. Could just ask me after I play, but, you know, that's all right. But again, to answer your question, I'm long-winded. I go like this all the time. So you deal with me. Diligence, hard work, dedication, all with the promise of no money. Deal with that. Play in the bedroom. Take 5 records and mix those records for a whole CD long. Just those 5 records, just those 5, so that you know those records ins and out. Because you'll know it. You'll know how to play it in any circumstance, pitched up, pitched down. You'll know it. And knowledge of your tunes is more important if you're talking about the full culmination of a really good jock. It's not just being able to play what's hot now in a decent fashion or being able to mix 2 records seamlessly. Who gives a fuck? You can train a monkey to mix 2 records. But can you tell a story? Can you tell a story? And give enough monkey talent there to make it palatable to people. You know, that's the other part of it, is making at least, you know, listenable so people aren't just running out, you know. Because you still have to make converts of people who may show up. Someone may show up and be like, they're used to hearing somebody just all night, robot. And they come in and they're having a birthday party. They come to your party and you got a couple stumbling transitions. They ready to leave. But if they hang around long enough, they might just get something from it. So you don't want to make it too rough for them. Other times you may just say, fuck you, I'm getting down. Who cares? I'm not mixing nothing tonight. So it's a double-edged dagger. You just got to you basically got to find your way. But diligence, hard work, and practice. Practice, practice, practice. Mix everything. Mix stuff you're not even supposed to mix with it. Learn how to mix. It's not just about the beat. It's about where sounds start and end and the apex of their frequency and where they're going. All that type of shit you learn in mixing over and over and over again. Now, making the transition into production, I think that's a personal choice. I think that you've got to really be called to do it and do it well, because eventually one of the two is going to be yanking you. And walking that line is even more difficult because the pressures change. Hell, you go to Amsterdam for a weekend having never been. Being American. We're not used to that kind of freedom. So we're not even talking about all the different things that can assault you. You mean, you sitting up, you got all these different things coming at you in different directions, and you've never been exposed, and you still have this talent you're working on as a work in progress. You really have to hunker down and know what you're doing in terms of the visceral part of it. Knowing these records. Know your records. Know them. And I say records, not songs, records. Know them. It's all based around that. I hope that answers the question. Thank you. Yeah.
Right. I want to go back to your DJ style. I know you're a bit of a like tweaking EQ kind of like adept. So I want to know, as a dancer, usually like 90% of DJs are here like messing around with EQs. I just want to tell them to leave the record alone. So what makes what makes tweaking? How do you make it sound good? What's
It's a again, it's a razor blade sort of thing. You're walking it. You know you're playing a song, and you also know that with a little bit of tweaking of the EQ, you can change the energy of the song. The danger of it is to EQ every song all the time, forever and ever. Sorry, but you're just not going to be that interesting all the time. And another thing too is to tune into the song. Do you know that song well enough to have it send chills up and down your spine while you're playing it, and not even, and have it so that the audience doesn't really know that you're EQing it, or that they don't notice so much? Like it's really a balance, because sometimes you can play yourself and you'll be EQing it so much, and then you stop EQing, you notice the crowd doesn't care anymore. Well, at that point, you stop being a selector. Now you're an entertainer. Now people want to see you hop around. And that's not what it's about. It's not about putting on a show. It's about communion. It's about sharing. So some people will argue that it is about a show. That's fine. That's their philosophical take on it. Mine is not that. Mine is, let me share this with you. Now, if in the process what I'm doing is good to look at, makes you excited, great. But I could give a fuck. I'm more interested in people turning around as opposed to facing the DJ booth, head towards the speaker, or find somebody to dance with. Because there's a whole thing that goes on now where you go see somebody and you go to the DJ and you think you're going to a concert. You're not going to a concert. You're going to hear some records. So go look at the speaker. Turn the lights off. You know, and dig on that. And that's where that becomes the communion part. Now, once you start bringing highs and lows into it and changing the sound dynamic, you can totally play songs that were meant for other settings into something else, just by mere juxtaposition. Like, juxtaposition is the meat and potatoes of EQing. Like, there's no sense in you EQing everything that comes on if everything is linear. Like, let's say I'm playing a standard house set, and everything is boom tis, boom tis, boom tis, boom tis all night, right? If I EQ all the songs all the time, and they're all similar songs, what is the fucking difference? No one's gonna care. No one's really gonna get excited about that. But if I pick my points, and there's a foot, and I know the foot's been going on for a while, and I'm feeling that. Now, some people want to get methodological. Some people want to count all the time. Oh, the beat's gonna drop 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. No, that's fine if that's where you're at. But if essentially you want to get some kind of emotive thing going, you're gonna need to know that song. It's gonna need to touch you right there at the spot, and that just simply won't do if people are coming up asking you all types of stuff while you're spinning. You gotta be in that moment. You need to cut everybody out, you need to turn people away, you need to put the drink down, put your cigarette out, and get to work, and really get to a community, and make sure that those energies run through you. And that was like the importance of what I was saying about the Stevie Wonder song, that As. When Lil Louis played it, I always associated with something at home, Mellow Sundays with Mom, where now it's this banger. And I'm like, wow, you know, how did he do that? It was through juxtaposition. It was what he played before it, after it, and how he worked that song. What are the songs before and after what you're doing is another part of EQing. It's not so much just the technical part of dropping the lows, bringing the highs up, which EQs to use. I mean, personally, there was a mixer made by Newmark. Hey, Rick, was that the PPD with the 7-band? All right, we'll make sure. PPD 7-band Newmark mixer. You had 7 bands of EQ across. This wasn't like a crossover where you had mid-highs and lows, and you could just drop those. You had lows or regular subs, mid-lows, mids, low mids, mid-mids, high mids, high highs, mid highs, and then highs. So had all these different levels you could mess with. And the idea of just the bass and just the mids and just the highs was really, that's more or less to me a new concept. When you work in a 7-band, you have all these frequencies you can mess with, and you could totally tweak somebody out. And it's a lot more complex than the regular type thing. So when I would go out and I would hear these guys drop the EQ and it'd be real simple, I'd be like, what are they doing? That's boring, I'm asleep. And over time, you start realizing if I incorporate these two methods, then it changes everything. So that's all keeping in mind that the spinning process, the selecting process is a work in progress. You're gonna grow, you're gonna change. It's never gonna stay the same for you as long as you're into it. It's never gonna stay the same. So the idea of the competitive part of it, you go through that the first 7 years, in my opinion. You're worrying about everybody else's transition, their selection, and their EQ work. You want to be better than all of them. But after a while, you start to realize it has absolutely nothing to do with you and your competitive streak and your ego. Nothing. It has more to do with these individuals. Now, that happens when you get to autopilot. Autopilot is when you start picking out records without even knowing what the fuck they are. Where you got a record, you're playing, it's wonderful, and then something says, play the next song. You grab the next song, and you end up playing it right at the right time that the record's over, and you have just enough time to bring it in, and everything is just moving in a great line. It's called being in line. That is beautiful. If you can get to that point, you're in good shape. But those are very, very rare places. That type of selection makes EQing very, very easy, because then all you're doing is you're in a moment, you're in a flow, nothing's being held up. Your mind isn't stopping the process. And that's very, very difficult, especially if you got Serato or some shit. Yeah. What is the theory behind it? Oh, what was the point? Well, the point was initially, I was hearing these edits when I was younger. You know what? I got some of these edits with me.
So we can listen to it.
Yeah, we can hear a couple of these edits. I'll play one couple of these. I would hear these edits, and I wasn't hearing them at the time that I was doing everything. I heard these edits when I was younger, and they just weren't around anymore. The closest I heard were a few on R&S, but nothing really amazing. I mean, R&S Records, the repress, not the overseas label, the old school one. I think Danny Criver did a lot of edits, melodies and mainline stuff. Those were seminals, really, really serious pieces that Ron Hardy, Frankie Knuckles, all these old Chicago jocks will play a lot. You realize that this whole edit culture was something that's underground in Chicago, going from tape to tape to tape all the time. I mean, everybody was trading edits with everybody else. They never come out on vinyl. They were always up underneath something. Now me, I would come across a song and I knew that, damn, I missed those edits. I don't have those edits. Fuck it, I'll make one. And I basically could make it for me and my friends to play. I just said, well, I got to cover cost of these things. Let me put them out. I just put them out in small numbers, no big deal. And I figured, well, since I'm doing that, and there's another one too, I got this remix I did of Joe Scott. I said, well, let me put it on there because, hey, maybe they'll pick it up. I don't know. Let's see. I was flirting with majors, thinking I was going to get some kind of response from them because I did this remix without any separated parts or anything. It was all done off of stuff from the album. I was like, well, they'll pay attention to that, and if not, then I'll just be an edit on the other side, and we'll just roll from there. I only do 1,000 copies and call it a day. Yeah, she knows about it because, I sent it to her, and, well, I hope she knows about it. I have no doubt. I really don't know if she knows about it, but I sent it to her manager, and I hope she heard it. She didn't call? She did call, but that was having to do with me going to her concert. Went to Jill Scott concert in Detroit and saw her there. I threw a package up on stage after the show. It went over the little barrier where they keep people away, landed on the stage. The manager grabbed it and threw it back at me. And then she started talking to the manager like, what was that about? And I threw it back up there again. And the manager came over and grabbed it and started to throw it back. She stopped him and grabbed the music. And the music, it was real simple. It was the sound signature sampler and a couple of things that I was working on at the time on the CD. The remix wasn't on there, anything like that. And so she gets the package, I guess. She says bye. I just walk away. I go home. About a month later, I go on my email, I mean, not my email, but my answer machine on the phone, because I put my card in there. And it's a message from Jill Scott saying, I got your music, appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Never mind my manager, Bill. He's just trying to look out, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's very, very concerned about my safety. I'll call you when I get to LA. That's the next place I'm going, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh. So I got the Slowly Surely, and I heard that Hidden Beach was looking for remixes on it. And so I said, well, why don't I do a remix? I'll throw that on in the beginning of it. Maybe it'll spark her interest. Maybe she'll call. Did that, did the remix, shot it to her, got a call back, but they weren't interested. But I thought it was funny later on that Jazzy Jeff had a remix, and his got listened to. But that's all right. You know, Philly holds it down for Philly. That's cool. You know, but they said they weren't interested, and so I said, well, I'm gonna start a little shit. I'm gonna put it out, and if it does something, maybe that'll make them give it a second listen and give me a call or something. So I put it on the other side of the edit. I never thought they'd do anything. I never thought the edit thing would go anywhere. It was basically just for me and my friends, and just putting out a couple of tunes that we knew needed an edit. They weren't around anymore, and they were classics. It was like the equivalent of like any other South Soul joint that you'd hear, something like that. And I said, well, shit, I'll just edit up some stuff. Did it, people liked it, and I charged an exorbitant amount because I knew the potential of it was, A1, I didn't want to rape the original people too much. A2, I also knew I had to generate enough if they did come calling to give them something. A3, I didn't want everyone to have it. I didn't want everyone to really go for it. I wanted it to be something that if you really wanted it, you pay what you had to pay to get it, because 9 times out of 10, you'd understand it. You say, yeah, man, I remember that. Let me get that. Or, damn, that's sweet. I want that. I'll get that. And then your friends be going, man, that's expensive. Like, yeah, but I don't think these are going to be coming out anymore. Little did I know, there were monsters waiting in the wing to boot my shit. So they booting my unauthorized edits of these pieces. That served that was a big problem, and it really pissed me off. Because then it was like, all right, this whole idea of doing these was to just kind of give some kind of fun in this again. Because at the time, everything that was coming out was boring. Everything was the same. Everything had the same, like, I think at that point, like this whole doom, 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 doom thing had taken over. I didn't know where the hell it came from, but it took over. Everything sounded the same. And I was like, all right, that's enough. I had enough of this. We need some more raw shit out here. We got to do something. I got to have fun. I'm missing the fun. Where's the fun? Where are those little pieces where you go to the store and you know you're the only one around that has this? You know, the ego kind of took over. You go, yeah, I want that just for me. You know, and that's the other part of it, is you can't get away from too much of your ego, but at the same time, you have to keep it in check. It's a balance, everything in moderation. So that coming out was just basically, man, so people, if they could dig it, dig it. It wasn't for everybody. It wasn't meant for everybody. And I wanted to make something rare, because I knew if once I did 1,500 copies of each one, was cut, discontinue, you get no more. That was it. These fools come and boot me. Now they're selling 2,000 more copies on top of the little 1,500 I was gonna do. Now it's raped. Everybody's got them. Got fake covers and jackets made up on it. My point was, put a white label on it, put a stencil, and see, I wasn't even gonna put a stencil on it. It was just gonna be these white labels that came out, and they would just be what they would be. People would grab them, and that's that. But it was when people started booting me, I said, well, now I gotta differentiate. So then I started putting these stencils. I would get the records done, hand draw, ugly edits 6, 7, and 8. I got a couple of them hanging out here. And write on them. This is ugly edit 8. I'd write on a piece of cardboard, and then cut it out, and then take spray paint and put a stencil on each record. So you're getting the original Ugly Edit if you got the actual paint stencil. It's only on one side. It's never no printing, and just spray paint each one. Handmade in Detroit. There you go. And you know, people saw fit to boot them, and I couldn't really complain. I couldn't say I wasn't really. I mean, I could complain, but I couldn't do anything about it. And so you got a couple of these little unreleased joint stuff that I thought was interesting. Maybe not original production, but stuff that I thought needed a little bit of light. All right, let me see. So, you know, you play it, and it's not just your standard version of it or just an extended disco mix. It does a little something. It changes the arrangement, but it's still identifiable as Slick by Willie Hutch. And it's a little B-side cut on the side of an album off of, you know, what do they call it, the Mac. But that was that one. But that's the whole point behind them. I did 10. I got more edits than 10. There's one last edit I'll play to send everybody home on a Christmas vibe. That was supposed to be an Ugly Edit 10, but I changed it because I wanted one for myself that is just for me, that nobody could boot. Nobody be charging another $10. It'd be sweet if they booted it and cut my price or something, you know. But gonna offer the same. It was just a Mac move. Somebody just tried to get me. I mean, every time you turn around, somebody's chopping up an edit, putting something out. Man, don't buy those. Buy them only if you mean them, or if they mean something to you. Don't waste your time or your energy on them if it's just a regurgitating of what happened and how it worked. You see that a lot in this overwhelmed technical field of music, dance music. Everybody's quick to bite the next guy that does something original and turn it around and say they did it first. That's the scariest thing about all this technology. It's becoming more increasingly difficult to become and remain original. Anyone can come and bite your shit and have it plugged up and hooked up and sell it as their own. That's the problem. And then on top of it, you got downloads. And on top of that, and then unmonitored downloads. Copy and then a copy and then a copy and a copy. Yeah. Pay for the downloads. Pay for the records, more importantly. Get the records. Invest in this. If you're doing this, invest in it. It's an investment. If you're not willing to make the investment, don't fuck with it. There's plenty other ways to make money in music. Plenty. We have no shortage of that. But if it's something that means something to you and you're interested in being able to do this independently and keep the creativity that comes along with that, watch that shit. It's fine if that's the way the world's going. I know that. But you got to have some balance. You got to make sense of that shit. Any more questions from you? Because I got like one more edit.
Yeah, then let's hear it.
All right, this is the last one. Any other questions about production or anything like that from anyone out there? If there are no more questions, I'll play this last one, pack up my shit, and y'all take it easy. That's it? All right. Thank you very much for listening to me rant and rave for a minute.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.